So I've been making these HELOC videos for a while now, and it seems like the biggest reason why everyone wants to go get a home equity line of credit right now is to go buy an investment property. More specifically, a long-term rental investment property. Now, is this a great leverage of equity in order to build wealth in real estate, or is it way too risky because you're using your house as a personal ATM machine? Let's get into it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you didn't already know, my name's Jay Costa. I'm a real estate investor, builder, and agent here in Northern New Jersey. And if you get any value out of this video, please hit that like button down below and also consider subscribing. We're slowly building a community here and would love for you to be a part of it. Now, onto the video. So first things first, if you haven't checked out all of my previous HELOC videos, I definitely recommend you check those out either before watching this or after watching this, because I go over basics of a HELOC, what a HELOC is, how to apply for one, and more specifically, recently I made one on how to use your HELOC in order to buy an investment property. Now, in that video, I focused on how you could use your HELOC to leverage yourself in order to build wealth in real estate investing. But in this video, I want to focus more on specifically using a HELOC as a down payment on an investment property. By the way, I'll put all the links down in the description box down below, as well as up here in the corner, so you could check out all of the HELOC videos that I've made in a playlist. So it's important to realize that we have two different questions to answer here. One, could you or can you use a HELOC as a down payment on an investment property? And two, should you do it? Should you use your HELOC as a down payment on an investment property? The answer to number one is quite simply yes. Most banks as of now will allow you to use a home equity line of credit for a down payment on an investment property, but it has to be an investment property, not a primary residence. For primary residences, most lenders, I think really almost all lenders, make you show where the money is coming from, and it needs to be liquid money. But for an investment property, like I said, should not be an issue. But the answer to question number two is a bit more tricky. So I basically have two rules or parameters that I go by in order to decide on what I want to use my home equity line of credit for in regards to real estate investing. Number one, it needs to be short term because a home equity line of credit has a variable interest rate. So when it's short term, any change in interest rates, the effects of that would be minimized since it's not for a long period of time. And number two, I need to have a clear exit strategy, even in a worst case scenario, where I have a concise plan on how I'm going to pay that HELOC back. So for real estate investing, for something like a short-term fix and flip project, I would have no problem using a HELOC as a down payment on a fix and flip project because obviously it is short term, maybe 6 to 9 months or so, and there is a clear exit strategy in place. You're going to pay off the HELOC once you sell the property. So for instance, you buy a project for, let's say, $500,000, you need 20% down, that's $100,000. You take $100,000 out of your HELOC as a down payment on the property. Then you renovate, let's say you put $100,000 into it, you renovate the property, it takes 6 to 9 months, you pay interest only payments on that $100,000. And then once you sell the property for a profit, you take the profit that you have and you use that to pay off the HELOC. So obviously in that scenario, you're buying it for $500,000, you're putting $100,000 into it, and let's say you plan on selling it for $750,000. That's $150,000 profit before commissions and closing costs and interest and all those sorts of things. But obviously that would be more than enough to cover the interest-only payments on a HELOC for 6 to 9 months. But when I say prepare for worst case scenario, you have to take into account, what if it takes a bit longer? What if it takes like a year or year plus instead of 6 to 9 months? And what happens if you only sell it for $675 instead of $750, which you're seeing a lot now in this market? Now, as long as you account for this worst case scenario and you still are most likely about going to break even, I say go ahead and do it. Now, that's a fix and flip project, and I've also even used my home equity line of credit for new construction projects where basically it's very similar to a fix and flip project. It's just a much longer time horizon as well as more money involved. But as I said earlier in this video, most of all of your interest in regards to using a HELOC for a down payment seems to be for long-term buy and hold real estate investing, buy and hold rental properties. So what do I think about using a HELOC on a down payment for a buy and hold rental property? Now, this is where you can get yourself into some trouble if you don't know what you're doing and you're not careful. If you're going to use a HELOC as a down payment on a long-term buy and hold rental property, you need to make sure it's a short-term solution for your funding, as well as having a clear exit strategy. Like I said, the same two rules apply in my view. Now, a great example of this would be the BRRRR method, the BRRRR strategy. So maybe you take the HELOC and use it as a down payment on the property, you renovate the property, you rent it out, then you go back to the bank in order to refinance and get a cash out refinance to get your money back. And then you pay down the HELOC with that. So that would be a great use of a HELOC on a buy and hold rental property in regard to the burst strategy. But I would not recommend or suggest at all using your HELOC as a down payment on a buy and hold rental property if it's going to be long term, just for the simple effect of taking advantage of any leverage you can get. Being over levered is a real thing, especially in real estate. And if you get caught in a down market, you could really start to get hurt. Obviously, everyone has different risk tolerances, but that would be too risky for me, especially because a HELOC is connected to your primary home, your primary residence. You have to realize a couple things if you're planning on using a HELOC as a down payment on a rental property. First, you're gonna have a variable interest rate. Unlike a conventional standard mortgage, the interest rate can change, okay? It's not set. And that's really the biggest advantage that you can get in real estate investing, in long-term real estate investing, is having a fixed mortgage payment every single month while rent goes up and, values go up and you build equity. If you use your HELOC as a down payment with a variable interest rate, you're completely getting rid of that major advantage that everyone has, and what makes long-term real estate investing, buy and hold rental properties, so great and such a great tool to build wealth. You're also going to have now 2 separate payments to account for every single month that the rent has to cover. You're going to have your regular mortgage and you're going to have your HELOC payment. So it's going to be very difficult to find a cash flowing property with 2 payments like that, especially if you don't even know what the fixed interest rate is on a major part of it. And even if you find one that's cash flowing now, there's no guarantee that it's going to cash flow in the future, just like any other rental property, because like I said, you don't have a fixed interest rate or a fixed payment for the HELOC. So if interest rates start going up like they have recently, a previously cash flowing rental property all of a sudden is not cash flowing and you have to come out of pocket every month just to cover your expenses. That is not what you want at all. The bottom line is a HELOC can be a great and flexible tool for you to use in order to build wealth in real estate investing, but you need to be aware of all the risks and factors involved. Read the fine print of your HELOC with your lender and make sure you know exactly how it works. Unlike, conventional mortgages and mortgage lenders, these banks, these lenders that are offering HELOCs, they could basically have a bunch of different rules or guidelines that they could change at any time and at a whim. So definitely make sure what you're signing and what you're getting yourself into. For instance, some HELOC lenders, they offer a 10-year buy down period where you only have to pay interest only. And then at the end, it's like a big balloon payment they have to pay up front. Meanwhile, other lenders, they have that same 10-year drawdown period with interest only payments, but then it converts into a, like a 20-year or even a 30-year or a 15-year fixed rate loan. Now, like I said, this is a 10-year drawdown period. Maybe it has no effect on what you're planning on using your HELOC for, but like I said, you have to know the fine print. You have to know how your HELOC works. So ask as many questions as possible to your HELOC lender before signing up. Me personally, I would never take out money from my HELOC that I don't have any logical means to pay back. If you don't have the money on hand to pay it back, I would rather see you go get a cash out refinance and take the money that way. Although cash out refinances obviously have closing costs and such that you have to pay in order to get access to that money. I made a video previously on a cash out refinance versus a home equity line of credit and what the differences are and what you should use each for, the pros and cons. I will put a link in the description box down below as well as up in the corner here. But hey, everyone's different. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what your risk tolerances are with your HELOC. Are you planning on getting a HELOC? What are you planning on using it for? Do you have experience, good or bad, using a HELOC on both fix and flip projects, new construction projects, as well as long-term buy and hold rental properties? Let me know your experiences in the comment section down below. Like I said, we're trying to grow a community here, so any feedback, any comments are much appreciated. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.